I never thought I'd be the kind of man to hire a private investigator, but after months of vague excuses, late nights, and whispered phone calls, something inside me snapped. My wife, Sarah, had changed, or maybe I just hadn't seen her clearly before, and the nagging suspicion that she was hiding something had grown too heavy to ignore. I needed answers. So, I contacted a PI named Mark, a sharp, no-nonsense guy who promised discretion and results. The first few days, Mark followed her like a shadow, documenting every cafe visit, every unexplained detour, every suspicious smile. I tried not to look at my phone too often, afraid that the messages he would send might ruin me before I could even process them. But then, the first photos came in. Sarah was meeting someone, a man, dark-haired, mid-30s, and disturbingly familiar. They hugged, laughed, and shared what looked like an intimate conversation in the corner of a busy restaurant. My chest tightened, my mind spinning with anger, betrayal, disbelief. But as I looked closer at the images Mark sent, I noticed something strange. There was another man with her in a different photo, taken just a few days later. Another lunch, another warm embrace. And then another. I stared at my phone, frozen. My mind refused to accept what the pictures implied. She can't be seeing all these men, I whispered to myself, shaking my head. But Mark had more. He'd been thorough, and what he found next was something I couldn't have imagined even in my darkest nightmares. It wasn't just the men. Sarah had multiple lives. Mark had traced her movements over several weeks, and each man seemed to exist in his own bubble of secrecy. There were different cafes, different apartments, different weekend getaways. Each one thought he was special, the only one. Sarah was a master of deception, living multiple lives simultaneously, and I had been blind. Mark called me late one night. "You're not going to like this, but you need to see it all at once. I've compiled everything: dates, times, locations, photos, and even receipts." My stomach churned as I opened the folder he sent. It was like stepping into a different world, one I shared with her but had no part in. One evening, she went to a book club according to her text messages. Mark's footage showed her meeting a man named Daniel, walking hand in hand through the park, laughing as if she hadn't a care in the world. The next night, she was supposed to be at a friend's birthday dinner. Instead, she was photographed with another man, Jason, at a jazz club, cozying up like they had been together for years. And then there was another weekend where she was supposedly attending a work seminar. Mark's photos revealed her at a lakeside cabin with someone named Michael, the intimacy in the pictures undeniable. I felt like my world had shattered. How could one person juggle so many lives? How had I missed the signs? The late dinners, the unexplained receipts, the long phone calls, I'd blamed work stress, exhaustion, simple mistakes. And all the while, she was living a life I had no part of, a life so meticulously hidden that it felt almost impossible to believe. But the most shocking discovery came when Mark cross-referenced the men's information. One of them, Daniel, had an apartment key she used regularly. Jason had shared countless romantic dinners photos on social media but never tagged her, never hinted at her existence. Michael had a credit card statement linked to her secret identity. Each life was carefully compartmentalized, yet each had traces of her true self, if you looked closely enough. What do I do now? I asked Mark, my voice trembling. Document everything. Keep calm. Don't confront her yet, he said. You need the full picture first. So I waited, numb, as the revelations continued to pour in. Mark uncovered a trail of deception so intricate it was almost artistic. Sarah had emails under false names, phone numbers registered in different cities, even social media accounts that didn't exist on my radar. Each relationship had its own schedule, its own rituals, its own secrets. She wasn't just cheating, she was living multiple, parallel lives. The final blow came when Mark sent a video file. I hesitated before clicking it, knowing it might break something inside me beyond repair. But I needed to see the truth. In the video, Sarah was at a small apartment, laughing and cooking with a man I didn't recognize. She seemed so relaxed, so comfortable, so entirely herself, but not the self I knew. Then she glanced at the camera, her eyes sharp, almost predatory, and smiled. That smile confirmed everything. This wasn't a mistake. This was her life. I closed the laptop, my hands shaking. I felt everything at once: anger, heartbreak, disbelief, and a sickening sense of humiliation. I had loved her, trusted her, built a life around her. And yet, she had been living a secret world I couldn't even imagine. When I finally confronted her, she didn't cry, didn't beg, didn't even try to explain. She just smiled, the same smile from the video. "I guess you found out," she said. And that was it. No apology, no regret, just an almost casual acceptance of the chaos she had created. I walked away that day knowing I could never look at her the same way again. The truth was out, and it was worse than I had ever imagined. Sarah wasn't just unfaithful, she had been living multiple lives, each carefully curated and hidden from me. The private investigator had done his job too well. What I thought was a simple case of cheating had exploded into something far larger, far more devastating. I kept Mark's files. Every photo, every receipt, every message. They were my proof, my reality, my bitter inheritance. I didn't know what I would do with them, maybe use them in court, maybe just burn them someday, but for now, they were a record of the truth, that the woman I loved was not just one wife. She was many, and her deception had blown my world wide open. And in that silence, that void left behind by betrayal, I realized something chilling: I would never trust anyone the same way again.